It's time to Let's Talk. Oh boy. What's up? What's good? The Wolf's here, and we have some major news and announcements. I was going to make this video actually a couple days ago, but I decided to hold off before we got, because I felt like we were missing some of the information on it. And now we finally, from one of the very former, the game director of Days Gone, we've got the absolute insider information from somebody that was there in the developer studio of Ben Studios. So the big news coming over the last few days is, on top of the PlayStation storefront shutting down and everything, which is a whole other situation, which I'll probably make a video on that separately. There has been like this big giant news thing. So this article right here, Sony obsession with blockbusters is stirring unrest within PlayStation Empire. Get out of the way. So Jason Schreier, which he does a lot of different information, news leaks and whatnot. This whole video, this whole Let's Talk really goes in, for me, it just reaffirms the whole thing of, don't believe all the rumors and leaks and this and that and the other thing that you read. Also, don't believe all this, anytime there's like Twitter going on their little rants and everything, please don't be a follower of that crowd. Please don't be in that little, that Twitter bubble that just everybody loves to jump into and just start trashing everybody and everything. Studios and animation art, another 3 years ago, handful of influential figures within being support actors on popular titles such as Spider-Man. So anyways, this article is a lot of it, what they're talking about in this. It's a long article, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but a lot of it is actually kind of misinformation, misfiring information at everybody, and everybody just, they take this headline up here and they just roll with it and they start complaining like hell and everything. The PlayStation Store stuff, there's some complaints you could have there, but also there's some stuff that you should be kind of looking forward to because of the, all the PlayStation Store stuff. Again, I'll get to that into another video. But here's the real news story of this whole thing. So Jeff Ross, which is this guy right here, one of the main figures this is the countdown to launch on the PlayStation YouTube channel itself. This was live streamed back in 2019, literally the night that Days Gone came out. I was watching this just before I started my launch night stream for the game. But anyways, Jeff Ross. So these two guys have actually left. They are basically the two brains that got Days Gone made. And if you know anything, the studio heads always come with a pitch to the table of, the Sony executives, and they go, hey, we have this idea for a game. We would really like to make this idea for a game, and make it happen and everything. And so then Sony basically, they'll tell them, okay, we'll make something, like a prototype, as such, and we'll see what you guys have for an idea for the game, and then we'll see if we want to fund it and make it actually happen. Well, so from what we're seeing is that revealed that the pitch for Days Gone 2 featured plans for a shared universe and cooperative play components. Talking to God of War creator David Jaffe, which David Jaffe doesn't do. He's more or less a YouTuber now with, the developer's insight. He did make the God of War series and everything, so he has some good insight. I don't agree with every single one of his takes, or at least just the way that he kind of looks at some things in game design. There's a lot of stuff I do agree with him with, but there's just sometimes I'm like, I would probably do it a little bit differently than that, which is great. It's good to have different viewpoints and different opinions and everything on game design, because that's how you get different ideas actually rolling in the business and all that. So I'm just going to close that off. Anyways, Ross discussed topics that arose in the wake of Bloomberg's recent report about an unsuccessful Days Gone 2 pitch from developer Ben Studio. While Ross was unable to confirm if Days Gone 2 was indeed rejected due to a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, he did reveal a few details about the pitch he submitted to Sony for the sequel. We wanted co-op from the beginning in Days Gone 1, but obviously you have to make concessions for what you're going to be able to do. Basically, that's meaning the hardware limitations. And if you have played through Days Gone 1, as soon as you get into the middle of like a giant horde of zombies or freakers, especially if there's like bears or any of that stuff that are mixed in with that, the game engine starts really slowing down. Your frame rate will go to a crawl just because the PS4 Pro has one hell of a hard time, rendering everything, and there's so many NPCs on the screen. It's a wonder the game engine actually worked at all. That I mean, when Days Gone came out, there was a lot of people that were experiencing crashes and this and that and the other thing. And that just comes from the fact that when you have that many NPCs on screen, it's almost impossible for that old of hardware to track everything, to render everything, I mean, the amount of data that is just being flying through your system is kind of crazy when you have that many NPCs or enemies on screen attacking at once. So explain Ross during the conversation as reported by VGC. When asked by Jaffe if the Jeffy, I think it is. If the ideas for a co-op mode would have been implemented in a sequel, Ross said, "It's one thing that we had in our pitch. Yeah, it was the idea of shared universe with co-op play. Frostbite actually, when we were doing the game talk for this, literally his like vision for what Days Gone 2 could have been is exactly what they pitched to Sony. There's not okay, this is not all bad though. There is one cool thing that could come from this. We'll get to that in a second though. Explaining the vision for the co-op. Ross described it as taking this world that you've built and all these assets and systems and repurpose them for some sort of similar themed multiplayer version of the universe. So it would be with guys like Deacon trying to survive, building up a clubhouse or a crew. I think it would be fun to be in that world cooperatively and see what horde battles could be like. Now, reading this whole thing, I'm just like, that sounds absolutely awesome. It sounds like the Lost and Damned or like your MC missions on GTA Online. The difference being GTA Online does not have that many NPCs running around in the same area all at once. Plus, it's also a very different game engine. Could they possibly get this running on maybe the PS5? Probably they can make it work on the PS5. It might be like a 30 FPS experience just because of the sheer amount of NPCs. Again, like it's that you have no idea how much resources it takes to make that many things be moving on the screen at one time and animated and all that stuff. Mix that with the networking that goes on and how the game engine has to actually track each player's movements in that game world, on top of trying to track where all the enemies are, on top of trying to track where if there's lootable items and such, your bikes and everything. You're gonna have to actually track 2 sets of customizations for bikes, loadouts, all that stuff. If I'm Sony, I'm thinking, okay, not everybody can get their hands on a PS5, and can we downscale this for the PS4 Pro? I doubt like how it would work with the baseline PS4, but can we scale this down? It could work for the PC and PS5. When you get down to the last gen technology, and yes, we are now, PS4 is last gen now. In my brain, it just I don't see it working for that. So then you're going to have like a Cyberpunk, kind of type of release where the game is not going to work as well, or an Outriders type of thing where the game engine is just not going to talk with the servers that well. It's either that or the game engine is not going to be able to load the assets and resources too well. And then you have, like I said, the Cyberpunk thing where zombies floating or, just stuff not loading in the right way. So if I'm Sony, I'm going, no, we can't do that. It's either you make a story-driven narrative game or nothing. Does that mean that we're never going to see a game in, this right here? We're never going to see that happen? No. What it means is maybe give it a year or two, and possibly Bend Studio might just have a brand new IP that is a co-op survival game, hopefully built around the exact same, make it Days Gone 2, but just don't make it Days Gone 2, So while Ross openness about an unannounced game does make it feel as if Days Gone 2 is probably not going to happen, which he doesn't really actually say that, Rawson reinforced that he cannot confirm the game situation. I don't think it's publicly confirmed that the status of Days 2 Gone is. I don't want to be the guy who's the official source for whatever it is. Jeff Ross seems like he's a pretty decent guy. He's just trying to give the fans the information that they're really after. And he just seems like, because he's not at Bend Studio anymore, he's just doing his own thing. So he doesn't really have anything to lose by giving away information. But at the same time, who knows? He could come back to Bend Studio and they could make a Days Gone 2 when more people have PS5s. And there's a wider range of a possibility of making the game to the vision that the original plan was for. People are just blowing up, and they're just making a bigger deal out of this than what it really is. Ross himself no longer works at Bend Studios, noted by his departure his departure had nothing to do with the status of the sequel or anything else that the studio was doing. Which, first take, you would think that, okay, so, Sony, and I've heard this also, that people are like, okay, well, Sony told him, screw you, we're not making your game. So he said, the hell with it, I'm just going to leave the studio. It's not that. While discussing the Bloomberg report, Ross also stated that it was never the reality that Bend Studio had lost autonomy and had become a supporting studio for Naughty Dog. Instead, he insisted that the link between the two studios was collaboration. This right here. So there was a ton of people on the Twitter, the Twitter mob. They were running after Sony, just basically just pooping on Sony and getting the fan base all riled up and trying to poop on Sony, because the fan base is already riled up about the PlayStation Store is going down, even though it's not the end of the world. Of the storefronts going down, you can still re-download your games and everything. Again, I'll get to another video talking about all that stuff. And then the Last of Us, remake, which I think is going to be more or less a remaster, which we're going to get to in this video in a second here, where I'm actually leading into talking about that. But then basically, I don't know if it's Xbox fanboys, PC master racers, or if it's just the Twitter mob mentality that is, attack anything that people possibly have a little bit of an issue with. But they were getting the fan base all riled up over this whole thing that Bend Studio might become like Naughty Dog North, which is not true. As you can see right here, it's total, whatever this article is saying, Jason Schreier is not right in what or maybe it wasn't even, well, if he's the editor, I don't know if he is the interviewer editor on the whole thing. I think articles do say who they're edited by, right? Update with details of Bend Studios project and some a previous version of the story corrected. Roll as in second paragraph. So basically, they're coming back and they're kind of retconning their own story. Yeah, updated. Jeez. So the story that you're getting is not correct. The real stuff is what Jeff Ross, I think, is saying. So the thing is, this is the actual video where he starts talking about, all this, like these are all franchises that the Bend Studio has worked on, which is actually a lot more than what I actually knew about. I thought Golden Abyss was really the main title that they worked on, which that's a PS1 game. Dark Watch, I'm thinking is probably Retribution. That's another PSP game. Dark Watch, I'm not quite sure what that one is. And then this is their first console, because Days Gone was their first big AAA console game. So I would believe what Jeff Ross is saying over Jason Schreier with all this stuff. And to say that Naughty Dog was going to be, I mean, Lost Autonomy had become a support studio for Naughty Dog, instead insisted that the link between the two studios was a collaboration. They're working together. Death Stranding, if you look at the credits in Death Stranding, there's like 4 or 5 AAA studios helping to work to make Death Stranding actually happen. They're helping out Kojima Productions with the whole process of development, and because Kojima Productions, that's the first game that they put out. That studio, literally, we've watched Kojima Productions go from little office space to full on AAA studio, and now they're working on their second game. Which, I mean, if I was Sony, I'd be looking at Kojima and being like, "Hey, you want a partner?" And maybe Sony PlayStation Studios starts help funding the Kojima Productions. But that same report also suggests a remake of 2013's The Last of Us is in development. If true, that would well be intended to launch on the back of HBO's anticipated The Last of Us show, starring Pedro Pascal, The Mandalorian, and Bella Ramsey, formerly Game of Thrones. The Last of Us thing, and this will be the last thing I get into in this video. The Last of Us thing, I definitely could see being a possibility. So in the way of like Spider-Man being remake, the Spider-Man PS5 remake, which is more or less a remaster of Spider-Man PS4. So that's what I'm thinking The Last of Us is going to be. Basically put into the most updated Naughty Dog engine, which is the engine that they, if you look at The Last of Us 1, it is running off from a very old version of the engine that is been updated like crazy to make Uncharted 4 look as good and The Lost Legacy look as good as it does, and especially The Last of Us Part 2. So that's what I'm thinking is going to be like the main focus of The Last of Us remake. It's probably going to add the ray tracing. It's going to add the 60 FPS to it. It's going to add, it already has a 60 FPS option, but make it 4K, 60 FPS, ray tracing, dual sense, adaptive triggers. That's what Sony is kind of calling a remake. It's more or less a remaster. So everybody's freaking out, and they're sitting there like, we need a Legend of Dragoon remake, we need a SOCOM remake, we need, this, that, and the other thing. I see those games coming. I see those games being made easily, and all this other talk about like Sony doesn't like doing older games. And I'm just like, where is this coming from? I don't get how people are saying that, because of the fact that if you really think about it, what was 2 main launch titles for the PlayStation 5 lineup? So one of the main games that literally Sony just put out as a launch title for the PS5 was Demon Souls, a fully remastered version of it, of a PS3 game. Now, on top of that, they also just did a whole giant Astro's Playroom PlayStation Museum, which is nothing but nostalgia based. It is nothing but showing the whole roots and history of the PlayStation. Yet everybody wants to jump down Jim Ryan's throat. Everybody wants to, even though Herman Hulst is the head of PlayStation Studios America. I don't get where all this Twitter mob mentality is coming from, all this hatred towards PlayStation, when they are literally doing what everybody wants them to do, but then everybody's still jumping down their throat. This is kind of the thing with gaming, though. Like modern day gaming, everybody just if they ain't complaining, they ain't happy. So yeah, just like, I don't know, man. So my biggest thing is about the Last of Us remake, though, is I'm pretty sure what they're gonna do is they're gonna it's more or less a remaster, and that remaster is gonna come out alongside the HBO show of The Last of Us. So if you like the show, come and check out this brand new remastered version or remake version of the game. My biggest concern about it is it's going to confuse the already confused people that don't know the difference between a remake and a remaster, where a remaster doesn't change anything. It's just up-resing it and, bringing in the ray tracing and all that stuff, like what you're probably going to end up seeing with The Last of Us. And a remake is something that changes stuff. It keeps this the same characters and the same kind of storyline, but it also changes up the storyline at the same time. So same kind of world, but change up the storyline, change up the characters, change up game mechanics. That's a remake. So yeah, I can't wait to see what's going to happen with The Last of Us. Probably, more or less remaster. And when it comes to Days Gone 2 news, I think there's going to be a new IP. There's probably going to be something brand new coming out of Bend Studios that will be basically Days Gone 2, but it's not going to have the Days Gone logo on it. Hopefully it's a biker thing where it's like co-op and all that stuff. That would be amazing to see that happen. It might not have the zombie hordes like we know and everything, but hopefully they keep it to where it's feels more arcade kind of video gamey than simulator, because there's plenty of simulators out there with all that stuff. I just want to be able to ride on bikes, make an MC, and go out looking for supplies, have a shootout with some NPCs. I really don't want it to be PvP. I really would love to see a Days Gone 2 style S game be a PvE. So it's like 4 players rolling around on their bikes. You can only fit in like maybe your saddlebags or whatever. Like you can buy or upgrade bigger saddlebags, and you can fit only so much water and food supplies and scrap pieces and whatnot in that. That'd be awesome. They could also do tie-ins with like Joel and Ellie and Abby and all that stuff, and bring them in as like DLC characters. Deacon, of course. So there's a lot of potential with all this stuff, and I don't know why everybody's losing their minds over what's not going to happen and what is shutting down and everything, when they should be focusing on what is in the future and what is actually coming up on the horizon of cool stuff, because a lot of your nostalgia based stuff is actually in the future with remasters and remakes. We're going to see so many more of them coming up. They're very profitable. Those ain't going away. Just like old school retro gaming is not going away. In all honesty, and again, I'm going to get to this in probably the next Let's Talk, them shutting down PlayStation storefronts and maybe disconnecting them from the PlayStation networks themselves, it could be a very cool thing. Stay tuned around for that video, though, because, overall, I'm not mad at Sony on what they're doing. You can call me a fanboy, a PlayStation nerd, whatever you want to call me. In all honesty, I think it's some pretty cool stuff that they're doing. They're trying to do it business wise to where Xbox is a game service with the Game Pass and everything, and the EA Play and all that stuff, and Bethesda stuff mixed in. Xbox is just a game service. PlayStation is a platform for AAA developers to, make the visions that they have of these really cool experiences, not just games, but that make them into a full-on experience, make that stuff happen on the PlayStation platform, and not just try and sell the subscription service, So, yeah, that's my thoughts on this whole situation. Everybody's just overblowing everything as they normally do. One interview, and I cannot stress this enough, one interview by one person. I didn't think it wasn't even an interview. It was just information that they found through sources, insider sources on the whole subject. And they wrote one article, and everybody took that article as absolute fact. And then we have a developer that was actually on the team that was working with the whole thing and just totally, denounced half of the article and half the stuff that they were going over. So, it's again, it's a big lesson for everyone just to know out there. Hey, don't always believe what you're seeing, reading, and hearing on the internet and everything, because you might miss out on some really cool stuff. Anyways, so thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. Be on the lookout for the other video where I go into detail on my thoughts about the PlayStation Store closings and everything. So that'll be up very soon, also around the same time that this one goes up. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. Go check out the Warwolf Twitch channel, and I am streaming on there on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Bouncing between times slots and zones and everything. I can never keep my timer, but be on the lookout for notifications going out. If you follow the stream and keep the email notification on, you'll see when I go live and everything. And you can come through and say hello and see what I'm up to. Right now, it's been Resident Evil month because Resident Evil 8 is coming up. Which that I think I'm also going to be playing on the PS5 now that I'm actually thinking about everything with VR support and all that. Could be fun. Could be a lot of fun. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. And as always, I will see ya next time.